Welcome to a LTD2 patch notes overview, brought to you by me, Toho. My goal is to go over all the patch notes in an easy to follow format and highlight some of the bigger changes. So let's jump right in. As always, we have the links to both Lisk's and Jules' AMA. They do one each month, so don't worry about it if you missed the most recent one. Next up is something that I might even take advantage of. Top 20 player, and occasionally rank 1, Offma is offering free coaching in his Discord. He really is a friendly person, so you don't have to be shy or nervous in asking for some help. And here's how to get in line for some coaching. Hop into the Discord, read the rules, then go to the coaching requests and get started. Don't forget to leave a review or thank him for this incredible service. Our plushie is not your thing, but you still want some Legion related merch? Well, we're proud to introduce official Legion TD2 posters. In my opinion, they look really cool, especially the Yaws and the Oasis ones. And bonus, it helps support the game. Next up is the feature part of the update, Double Tap. This is a new feature that doubles your rating changes for your next 3 games. Be careful though, as it works both ways, for wins and for losses. I think the description the devs gave is perfect. Cut down the grind and get to the rank you definitely deserve, TM. Results may vary. The stacks are not used in a couple of situations. If you have any of the rating multipliers like the ranked placement matches, or if the match is cancelled, stacks will not be consumed. To purchase this, go to the shop and then click on the account icon and it will be right next to the name change. You can purchase it for 10,000 essence or 270 premium essence, and your next 3 games will have the boost, and you can do this up to 4 times a week. The boost only works for your account, so if you're doing it with a friend, it will not boost their elo gain or elo loss. Next up is a change to the classic game mode Mini and Wombo. Now's your chance to open with never before available openers. Your roll can include anything that costs between 255 and 300 gold. This includes unit upgrades, like a bigwig or an alpha male. Most tier 3 units fall into this price range, so get creative. Personally, I think bigwig or spectral scallywog will be incredibly strong. This patch also brings some new cosmetics. There's a new secret card called Baby Imp, and you can obtain this in the shop, or there's a very small chance when you leak your opponent on wave 5 with imps. Good luck getting this awesome new card. There's also a new Fiend skin. It joins the Great Boar, the Red Eyes, and the Green Devil as the newest part of the Underworld skin line. Sometimes third-party feedback on things like Discord or Reddit misses a couple of people, so each month there will now be an in-game player happiness poll. Be on the lookout for it in your inbox. And before we go into the game balance, you might have missed this small little part right here. But next month is a new unit month. I wonder what it could be. I was actually a big fan of the Goblin Copter and Crab, so I'm very excited for the next one. Now for the balance changes, and we're going to start with the Masterminds. First up is Kingsguard. It received a buff with a 1% increase to the King's attack speed and damage reduction. A 1% change might not seem like a lot, but we've all been in games where it's an incredibly close King race, and this 1% boost might be the difference between a win and a loss. Next is a buff to redraw. This change lowers the cost of rerolling late game. 40 gold just felt like so much, so even if you did find what you need on the reroll, you might not have been able to afford it. I think this is a nice change. It might bring some more people to playing redraw. That's it for the Masterminds, so let's move on to the Legion spells. All Assault has been buffed, giving you an extra 25 Mythium. I know from personal experience that I have been that 25 Mythium off the perfect wave 11 or 12 set. It was forced into something suboptimal. That extra 25 Mythium might be the difference between affording that sweet after income siege ram, or just going for something like Dynamos. Counterattack also has a slight buff to the initial Mythium gained when you pick the spell. The Mythium received from leaking stays the same. Giant Snail has unfortunately been nerfed. Their HP has gone from 570 to 550, and the damage has dropped from 19 to 18. They do still have enough HP to survive up to 1 Red Eyes and a second Great Boar's charge, albeit with very low HP. Glacial Touch has a small, or maybe not so small buff, changing the movement speed reduction from 95% to 97%, which is only a 2% change, but according to math, the slowed unit will take 67% longer to reach a certain point. You know what, math is cool. Those wave 13 golems and wave 18 whale chiefs never stood a chance. The hero spell has gone through a bit of an overhaul. It now provides a 4% attack speed buff and damage reduction. The hope is that it now works better with a wider range of units and allows for a more versatile use of the spell. Lizard Army has a small buff, changing the initial Mythium gain from 50 to 55. Press the Attack also has a slight Mythium buff from 80 to 85. The Protector has been nerfed from 0.6% regeneration to 0.5. It will be interesting to see if this affects the number of spawns from Soul and Hellgate. Villain has been nerfed from 22% on melee and 11% on range to 20% on melee and 10% for range. Now onto the unit changes. Whirlybird's ability has been nerfed from 70 damage to 65 damage. This unit was just so incredibly strong on waves 1 to 6, especially 1 to 3. The nerf should make it a bit more leakable on these waves, so be careful the next time you try to greed the extra worker, as it could be devastating. Oathbreaker, final form, has a slight nerf to its damage. It's gone from 83 damage per attack to 81. And this may not seem like a lot, but when you've got 250% attack speed, it can really start to add up. I do still think this is a very strong unit though. Chlorapixie has received a slight attack speed boost. If you're a Fiesta player, I would go into the sandbox and practice a little bit before heading into ranked. The attack speed buff may not seem like much, but it could make the difference between like a 20% leak and a full hold. While its upgrade, Sakura, has a slight nerf to her attack speed. It isn't massive, but I would still be a little bit careful greeting too much with her on waves 3 to 6. So in short, they buff the unit that you want to eventually die, and nerf the unit that you always want to live. Greed a little bit more with Pixies, and greed a little bit less with Sakuras, and you should be fine. Devilfish has a slight nerf to its attack damage, while Seraphim has a slight buff to its attack damage. They're trying to shift some of the power of the Devilfish to the Seraphim. Don't be afraid to switch to Seraphim if you need that little bit of extra damage. Slime Siren received a small nerf to its attack damage. I would be careful on wave 3 to that Lizard Send, as it might not perform as well as it used to. It probably still is a very strong unit in open. Sky Queen received a 2 damage buff, which may not seem like a lot, but once it starts to gain some mana, it starts to attack very fast. An extra 2 damage per attack can really start to add up. Fire Elemental has gone through an interesting change. While its total DPS hasn't changed, the power has shifted from attack damage to attack speed. I agree with what they say about it being a low interaction opener. In the past, the only real options were to income 1 to 3, and maybe go for a big 5 or a 6, but now it should be more vulnerable to a big 3 and possibly 4 send. Both the Elite and Trinity Archer are sharing the same attack speed buff. It's slight, but it's a little bit stronger versus like a Hermit Send, as it gets in more attacks before the units are healed. I for one welcome back the double lock-in Levi Archer combo whenever I see Sork as a Legion spell. Flower, much like Fire Elemental, was a very strong unit to open with, so it's gone through some changes. The AoE DPS and the damage have been slightly nerfed, while the HP and attack speed are slightly increased. I can say from personal experience that it does not hold 2 or 3 as well as it used to. Be careful out there, friends. No one wants to see that 80 to 100% leak with all the units being 10 HP. Crab Warlock has seen a slight buff to its damage. This does not affect the summons, only the Warlock itself. Because of the changes to 18 and 21, which we'll get over later, the Crab was actually nerfed indirectly, while the Crabomancer has a significant buff. More HP and more damage for both the Crabomancer itself and its summons. I think this is a good change, as in the past, I would almost never upgrade them in favor of spamming more Warlocks. The Gatling Gun and the Vulcan have both received quite a big nerf, as they were very strong. They both lost some HP and attack speed. I would be careful splitting with the gun, especially on ranged waves. 80 HP from the Gatling and 200 HP from the Vulcan can be the difference between it dying and causing you to leak, or barely living and allowing you to hold. The last unit change is a nerf to the XX HP from 2500 to 2450. I would be very careful on waves 2 and 3 if you decide to do the classic Grarl into Egg combo. There's only 2 Mercenary changes this patch, but they are pretty big ones. Ogre has massively increased damage from 100 to 157, but it did lose its knockout ability, which did 150 impact damage every third attack. It'll be interesting to see how it does now. Four Eyes has a slight buff to its attack speed, which should help versus any Exodia, Doppel, or Sovereigns with seemingly infinite lifesteal or regen that you're sending into. Next up is changes to the waves. Wave 10 has its attack speed nerfed from 3.57 to 3.45. Wave 13 has a small buff to its HP from 3300 to 3330. It will be interesting to see how this affects something like a Doomsday that has high attack damage but slow attack speed. The extra 30 HP could be the difference between needing an extra attack to kill it. Wave 14 has a slight nerf to its HP, possibly making things like a Trinity Archer or a Leviathan a little bit stronger versus this wave. Wave 17 just has a slight buff of 50 HP. Wave 18 has its power shifted a bit yet again. After the AoE was removed, small unit spam came back into popularity and was performing very well versus 18, as they would soak up the extra 180 damage when they would have died to just a normal hit. It now has an extra 60 damage for every attack, changed from 180 every 3 attacks. 19 has a slight buff from 4400 to 4450 HP. Wave 21, much like Wave 18, has also been changed a bit to help combat small unit spam. Its attack speed is nerfed a bit, but it now has a new ability, Inferno. It does 2% splash damage. It will be interesting to see how this affects some popular classic strategies, such as spamming gate guards, crabs, or gates. Lastly, we have the balanced watch list, where the devs are keeping their eye on a couple of units. This patch, it is Grarl and its upgrades, Crab Warlocks, and the change to Wave 21. The rotating classic game modes have changed from rotating every 6 hours to 5 hours and 45 minutes, which should make it so that they don't occur at the same times every week. Lizard Army and Robo Squad are no longer both in the same game, as they filled a similar role. Chaos Lord 2468 has been nerfed in the Floating Isles campaign, and you now get 15 essence each time you vote for or against a mode in Classic over the 25 essence you used to get for voting once. You can now get 30 essence per game if you vote twice. Well, that's all the patch notes for this month, and I wish I had, started earlier so I could test the old versus the new, like Fire LE on Wave 3 versus the new Fire LE on Wave 3, but that'll be for next time. I hope you guys enjoyed it and maybe helped you learn a thing or two, and I will see you next month.